Welcome to ComSpark. Today we are in Cincinnati, Ohio. My name is Bryan Hogan. I'm with Afidence, and I will be your guest host. We are here today with Darrin Murriner, co-founder at Cloverleaf, a comprehensive AI-powered personal and team development tool. So thank you for being here today. Tell us a little bit more about Cloverleaf.
Sure, yeah. Cloverleaf is an HR technology platform that helps people be effective working with each other. And when you look at our knowledge-based economy moving more and more towards how people work together, creating things of high value, right? Whether that's tech or it's creative and artistic endeavors, more than 80% of work is being done on teams today. And what we try to do is help bring improved communication, better relationships, and it really has a huge impact on retention, engagement, all of these kind of key things that I'm sure HR leaders and tech leaders, or tech leaders specifically, are focused on today. So
that's great. So you help your teams work better together.
That's right. Yep. And
Great.
Specifically the focus on communication and building better relationships in the context of the team environment.
So how does your tool contrast against tools like disc surveys or disc
Sure.
assessment tools,
Yeah.
myers-briggs?
Yeah.
How does it compare to those?
Well, we partner with a lot of those assessment companies as a starting point, but the really unique capability that we bring is we integrate with tools that people are using every day, things like Slack and Microsoft Teams and email and calendaring, because we're all really busy. The last thing we need is another tool or another login to go access content or information. So what we've done is really created an engaging, and I use the term platform in that intro, and that's really what we are, because we're pushing out content, we're looking at how can we help you improve how you're communicating, how you're working, persuading, motivating the people around you, so that you're more effective in those day-to-day conversations.
Well, that's great. So is it really targeted at both leadership, so that they know how to best lead their staff, or team members, so they know how to best work with their team members?
Yeah, it's really 3 levels in the organization. So, through those integrations with email and Slack and calendars, we create really highly engaging content with individual employees. 70% open rates on the content, 15% engagement rate around that content
really
as well, very high. And that's really important. So that's kind of like the foundation or the building block for our technology. And then from there, based on those interactions and how people are working together, we can add value to managers and then enterprise leaders inside the organization as well.
Well, that's great. So what kind of success have you seen with your clients that are using the product today?
Yeah, one of the best places that we look at is annual employee surveys, and I know most organizations are moving away from annual employee surveys and doing more frequent kind of pulse engagement surveys. But within those, we see dramatic increases in communication and employee development. There's a handful of key categories that we're directly related to. And oftentimes those are places inside the organization that oftentimes they don't have great solutions for. They get these negative or lower scores back on those engagement surveys, and they're kind of like, hey, how do we improve communication? And oftentimes I think a lot of organizations just default to more communication rather than really understanding that oftentimes it's at the work team level that people are experiencing those frustrations. It's the relationships with their peers or the relationships with their managers that are often causing those lower scores. And because we're where people are working on a daily basis, we have an opportunity to really accelerate the development in those areas.
That's great. So I know AI-powered is a key attribute, right, of the solution you guys offered. Talk to us a little bit about that. What does that mean?
Yeah, and the funny thing is, I feel like it's kind of become a cliche now. Everything's throwing AI powered and whatever it is, and so it's a little bit of a cliche. But our focus is, when we're pushing out that content to people, everyone rates that content, so that I get to understand the relevancy of that in my relationship and in my communication with the people that I'm seeing on a daily basis. And other people get to do the same thing. So with that, we're collecting a lot of data that helps us drive and improve the quality of the content that we send out and the quality of the recommendations or the goals or the development plans that we're offering to people. So that's how we're utilizing it inside of our product.
Great. So it's really adapting to the people using the product every day. So it's tailored It's learning how to tailor that information and how it's presented to the folks that
That's
are using
right.
it.
And one of the things that we had mentioned earlier was just like things like DISC assessments or myers-briggs, and that's kind of the traditional model.
Right.
Problem is that doesn't, oftentimes it doesn't adapt and change as people change.
Right.
And there's a component of those assessments that are changing relative to the roles that you're in or kind of your own personal experiences. Could even be things like, hey, I'm a new parent, and this is causing me to change my behaviors on a daily basis. So because we're using AI in the product, we have the ability to kind of adapt and change and give people more relevant and more current feedback and development opportunities as we're getting feedback or as the product is getting feedback from the other people inside their work team.
Wow, that's great. And this is showing up, the success of this is showing up in terms of employee engagement surveys. And so you're seeing...
That's right, retention, all those key metrics that people think of around people metrics. So engagement, retention, quality of hires. So we're really kind of translating that for the leadership inside the organization to things like better defined roles, and then matching the right people to those roles so that they're more likely to be engaged over a longer period of time.
Wow, that's great. So with all of the technologies that you've put into this solution, have you built all of those from the ground up? Have you used some third-party tools to help accelerate the development cycle?
Yeah, no, we're a huge fan of SaaS tools. So, a quick example is on the customer support or customer service side. We use a tool called Intercom and chatbots, and it's got the little chat window in the lower right corner. But it's so much more than that because we're able to actually build our entire user experience around that and test and measure kind of the effectiveness of the messaging inside of the product, and then decide based on kind of how people are using that and how they're responding to those messages, which pieces of those things we want to build into the product and make a core part of a product.
That's great.
Yeah,
that's great. So those best-in-class components, you can accelerate lifecycle, create a better experience, but also give you an idea of where to take the product in the future.
That's right. Really, it supports so much experimentation, not just Intercom, but any of the other tools that we're using. If we can rent something for a few weeks and in a quick way push something out to the market, something that we can test and we can put data behind, and then based on how people are responding to that and the metrics around that, we can decide, hey, is this something we want to put a bigger build effort behind, and invest in building our own components, whatever that is. Yeah,
that's great. So where do you see, if you look out over the next 3 to 5 years, where do you see your product growing and morphing into, and how is it being impacted by the growth of cloud AI?
Yeah, so one of the best things that cloud has been able to do is help level the playing field. Yep. So we can get started quickly as an emerging startup. We were even able to get free credits that lasted us for 2 years, to use AWS or Google as a cloud hosting platform. And so, from that standpoint, infinitely scalable. We've built everything to be able to support, the largest organizations, even though we may not necessarily be servicing a 100,000 employee GE. We can, we know that it's scalable and that we can easily, adjust to support those larger organizations.
That's great because you can. That's another beauty of the cloud, right? You can dial up the scalability of your solution.
That's right, and all the tools that we've implemented, the other SaaS tools that we've kind of used as a part of our product suite. We look at that same level of scalability, and they're all built on a lot of the same architecture. So we know that it can grow with our product as we grow as well.
Thank you so much for your time today, Darrin. We so appreciate you sharing your insights, and thank you so much to our listeners as well. To learn more about us, go to comspark.tech. This is Bryan Hogan, and have a great day.